Hello, good evening. Welcome. My name is Cherie Scott. I am the Member Engagement and Education Coordinator for Partner Colorado Credit Union. We are going to record this so that all have registered and want the information. This will be available to you. I will put in my information in the chat, my name and my contact information. So if anyone has any questions after viewing this video and they need some additional information or want to contact me directly, you can do so. We have with us Tina this evening with GreenPath, and she's going to cover credits, and I'm going to let her rock and roll. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Therese, for having me, and thanks to Partner Colorado. My name is Tina. I am a Partner Experience Manager at GreenPath. I have been with GreenPath for almost 12 years now, and I've had lots of experience in coaching and counseling, specifically in the area of credit. So I'm really excited to share with you some of the basics today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to GreenPath or Partner Colorado. So with credit reporting, reading and understanding a credit report, it can sometimes be a really challenging experience. It can also be something where I just don't know what I don't know. It doesn't have to be challenging. Hopefully this workshop will help you become knowledgeable about what a credit report and score is. We're hoping that you'll take away why it's important, how to get your personal credit report, and how your credit history affects you. So why is credit important? So I typically ask, if you have damaged credit, what areas of your life are affected? And generally my answer is there's a lot of areas of your life that are affected. We'll just take a look at a few of them right now. So one of the first ones, of course, is being able to have options and opportunities. So of course, good credit means that you get a loan when you need it. Maybe you need a car loan or a personal loan, whatever that might be. It really does help out with opening up options and opportunities for you. Good credit also can mean, buying your first home or refinancing or renting your own place. It can also affect areas of choices, so opportunities, options. Good credit means that you're able to have better borrowing choices, meaning, better interest rates and things like that. We'll take a look at some of the in-depth here with how the credit impact can happen. So we have a scenario here with Diego and Angela. And as you can see, credit impact, it can be really subtle. So we've got an example here of two folks who have $250,000 owed on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. With Diego, his credit score is a 660, and then we've got Angela, her credit score is a 750. Really what I say here is the credit impact equals dollars. So nearly, $35,000 more is what Diego might be paying for the same mortgage. So oftentimes people are really eager, and I saw this in my counseling experience, to buy a house because they don't want to miss the boat on a really great opportunity of a lower interest rate or lower real estate prices. If you do jump into a large purchase though before you're ready, just be aware that it could actually end up costing you more than if you waited, until things were maybe a little bit better. So how do I start with credit, and what does it look like? What do I do to get my credit? And so usually typically tell people like, hey, there's 3 credit bureaus that you can go to. There's Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. These are the 3 major credit bureaus that collect our information. The information may vary slightly. When it does come to applying credit, a lot of times you don't know which credit bureau your financial institution might use. So for this reason, we always say too, for identity theft purposes, it's always good to check all 3 just to make sure that the information is correct. There is only one true free credit report, and that is annualcreditreport.com. That is the only legitimate site to obtain your credit reports once a year for free with no strings attached. Only the reports are free, so I always tell people, keep in mind, anytime, generally we're like looking at our credit scores, we're going to have to pay something. Typically there's some kind of fee for that. On annualcreditreport.com, which is really great, it's only about $6 to $8 depending on what bureau you're getting it from, and it's cheaper than if you bought it directly from the bureau's website. So annualcreditreport.com is one of your best. Free to make sure the information is correct. website that people ask me a lot of times about is Credit Karma. And Credit Karma is a privately run site. They do make money, but rather than charging consumers, they make money via their advertising. So a lot of times I tell people it's like the social media of credit scoring and getting your credit information. So they calculate a variety of credit scores based on information from TransUnion. And Credit Karma is a great tool for educational purposes. You are limited, though, on seeing your score based on just one credit bureau. There are other credit reporting sites as well, and I always tell people, keep in mind that they're not free. So a lot of sites do a really good job of advertising. They're just not actually free. So there's freecreditreport.com. This is one of the most popular ones. You are charged usually $1 upfront and then automatically signed up for some kind of monthly subscription to the tune of about $15 a month. You can cancel it at any time, but sometimes to cancel these things, it can be confusing and they don't make it so easy to do it. I always tell people annualcreditreport.com, that's your best friend. So how to read a credit report. So typically I tell people that there are just general pieces of information on your credit report that are identifier pieces. So you're going to have your name, your address. A lot of times most of the time, hopefully you'll have your social security number listed, your date of birth, and that type of thing. So usually on the credit report, and this is one of those questions that I get all of the time where people are like, well, will they know if I'm married? Will they know this? Will they know that? What's listed on your credit report is the identifier information. So that screenshot that we just saw in the last slide there with your name, your address, your social security number. Of course, all of the money that you borrow is going to be listed on there. So if you have credit cards, personal loans, student loans, auto loans, all of those types of things. If you've got collection records, so any kind of medical bills that may have gone to collections, utility bills that may have gone to collections, charged off credit cards, those will show up. Public record information, that's typically if you are having a judgment filed against you, or you have filed a bankruptcy, or you have a tax lien. Generally, public records will show up in the list of information on your credit report. And then inquiries. Inquiries are if you are applying for credit. So you've got your hard inquiries. If I were to go to Sharice today to Partner Colorado and say, hey, I'd like to apply for an auto loan, that's going to show up on my credit report. If I am to check my information on my own through annualcreditreport.com, I'll also see that show up as an inquiry, except that's going to be more of a soft inquiry, which is something where it does not impact my credit if I'm checking it for educational purposes or just to make sure that that information is mine. If I am soliciting for money, such as going to Partner Colorado and applying for a loan, that's going to show up on my credit report as a hard inquiry, which generally does affect the score, which we'll take a look at a little bit later. And then any kind of consumer statements. A lot of people don't know this. You are able to include a short consumer statement on your credit report if you do write to the credit bureaus. So you're able to say, I filed bankruptcy, for example, in this year due to medical issues, or you may see collection accounts on my record due to a death in the family. You're able to include any kind of consumer statement on your credit report if you'd like to. That consumer statement does not affect your score. However, it might be helpful when you're applying for different things and, that just offers some more information. I do have a lot of people that use that consumer statement if they've ever had anything like a credit dispute going on, where maybe they're disputing some information or maybe they're going through some identity theft issues. They do use that consumer statement. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of those topics later on. But what's not on the credit report? So a lot of people are like, well, isn't my information on the credit report if I'm you know, if I'm married or my marital status, those types of things. I always tell people, really what's not on a credit report is a lot of personal information. So your criminal background, that's not going to show up. Your medical information, that's not going to show. If you have information about insurance claims or your race, religion, or politics, everything you see on the screen here, this is information that's not included on a credit report. The information that was on the previous slide, this is the information that's most important that's going to be listed on the credit report. So we talked a little bit about the soft inquiries and the hard inquiries. Here's a really nice visual. I'm a visual learner. So soft inquiries, they do not affect your credit score in any way. They're only seen by you for informational purposes only. They are not the result of a credit application or you soliciting money. So soft inquiries happen when they you are looking over your credit report for informational purposes only. So examples could include reviews of your credit history by existing lenders, so your existing financial institution, perhaps a credit union, that might happen. Getting your own report. So if I go to annualcreditreport.com, that is going to be a soft inquiry. It does not affect my score. Potential employers. So a lot of times if I'm applying for a job, they might take a look at my credit report to see. Insurance agencies, if they are looking to give you an offer on a rate, or pre-approved credit offers. So you get a lot of pre-approved credit offers in the mail. A lot of times those are soft inquiries from those financial institutions or lenders to see, hey, what does the credit look like? Let me send out this offer. And then generally the soft inquiries will stay on your credit report for about 24 months, so 2 years. The hard inquiries are the ones that we really have to pay attention to. So hard inquiries result from an application for credit. So whenever I am going to solicit money from a lender or a financial institution and I'm looking to borrow money, that is going to show up on my credit report and it may affect the credit score because what happens when I go to apply for money or I borrow money, ask a friend for money, it represents potential new debt that does not yet appear on my credit report. So it's basically showing that Tina's looking to borrow money. This is a risky thing. We don't know how Tina's going to pay it back. We don't know if she's going to be approved. And typically, just as soft inquiries remain on your credit report for 24 months or 2 years, that's the same for the hard inquiry. So I always tell people, be really intentional about the credit that you're applying for. If you don't need, that Target credit card, for example, or that retail credit card, just be mindful that if you do apply for that credit in store during the holidays, for example, at all of those great retailers, that is going to show up as a hard inquiry on your credit report. And you might not just have one, you might be getting offers from those different retailers. All right. So let's talk a little bit about negative information. So we know that hard inquiries and soft inquiries stay on our credit report for 24 months or 2 years. Negative information, they also have a timeline on that. Your credit report can reflect your collection records and money borrowed as positive or negative. So anything that's unpaid or anything that's excessive debt, it may be reported by creditors for many years. So 7 years is the timeline for delinquencies, things like your past due accounts, late payments, collections, public records, and most other negative items usually have like a 7-year time frame. The other things that have a longer time frame are things like a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which typically is about 10 years. And then anything that's an unpaid tax lien, 15 years. And I also say that a lot of times judgments, that could range anywhere between 7 to 10 years. I have seen in some cases judgments, same as Chapter 7 bankruptcy, being reflected for 10. And then positive information on the flip side, I love this, it also stays on your credit report for 10 years. So that car loan that you paid off 6 years ago, it's still showing up that you had great credit history on it. It's paid in full. That credit card that you paid off, 9 years ago, that's still going to show up, which is great. So sometimes, and I explained a little bit about disputing earlier, sometimes there might be errors on your credit report. So there might be somebody that has a similar name to yours and their information is showing up on your credit report. There might be something that you've already paid off that might not be reflecting properly. Maybe you have a collections bill that shows up for a cable box that you already returned and the company said they didn't get it back. If you do have any kind of error on your credit report, you have the consumer right to request an investigation of the error. The best rule of thumb is to, save your information if you can. So send copies, keep records, document your claim, file the dispute online if the report was obtained online. And if you're unhappy with the dispute, with the outcome of it, you're able to contact the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's the CFPB for short. They're great. They're able to help out with a lot of credit disputes. I did, when I was in my counseling days, I did have um, a conversation over the phone actually with the CFPB when they first started, and they were able to help us get an error off of one of our mutual clients' credit report. Now it's all done online. So you can go to consumerfinance.gov, much easier. I always recommend that people try the online route. You can also call. They have a little bit longer wait times now because a lot of more people know about them because they're a great resource. And the CFPB's phone number is the 855-411-2372 number. If you do have any questions about disputes, on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website, you can actually read up on exactly how to do it. Just go into the search bar and search for disputes, and you'll be able to find a lot of different information and articles that walk you through how to do that online and like exactly what that means and what you can dispute and what you shouldn't waste your time disputing. So I always tell people what's really awesome about your credit report too is that you do have some control over these things and you can empower yourself to really know what's on your credit report. So put all of these things into action. So step one, go to your computer or on your phone, bookmark annualcreditreport.com. Step two, I always say set a reminder to pull your credit reports throughout the year. So when I was counseling, I would always tell people you can stagger it throughout the year. So maybe in the first half of the year, you're checking your TransUnion. Maybe in the summer, you're checking your Equifax. And then at the end of the year, you're checking your Experian. You can set little calendar reminders in your smartphone to pull those. And then, of course, review your credit score regularly for any changes. One of the rule of thumbs that we always say is every 90 days. So every quarter, it's really great to check to make sure, hey, nobody's using my information. I don't have any errors. And just to make sure that you're on track. And then if you do, live in a household where you share finances with somebody else, it's always great to start a conversation about credit reporting so that everybody's on the same page. And then finally, encourage people to review their credit report when opening an account or when applying for a loan or credit card. So if you are going out to buy a car or if you're looking to purchase a home, it's really important to check your credit report before you actually have that hard inquiry hit with your financial institution when you're checking those. So I always tell people, if you have a son, a daughter, somebody living in your home and they're 18 years of age or older, make sure that they're aware that they need to be checking this on their own before they go to the financial institution to apply, only to find out, hey, we're not ready yet. Or you do qualify, here's the interest rate. Remember the Diego and Angela example from earlier, you can definitely save money if you've got your credit going the right way and in the right direction. All right, so what is your credit score and what is it comprised of? A lot of times, we say that FICO, that's the most popular score used by lenders. It comes from the company who invented the score, the Fair Isaac Corporation. A lot of people ask me, Tina, what does FICO mean? It's basically just the name, the Fair Isaac Corporation. There are many versions of FICO, and most of them range anywhere between 300 to 850 for the score, with the higher score representing better credit. So as you can see on this little visual here, you can see that if you've got between a 700 and a 749 credit score, you're in pretty good shape. You're low risk. So you're at low risk to a lender. You're probably going to be very creditworthy, trustworthy to pay the money back. Of course, the higher the credit score, the less risky you are as a borrower, right? If you are below 500, you're going to be seen as very risky. And then you'll see like the orange to yellow, kind of in that range of the 500 to the 699, a little bit more risky. So the higher your credit score, the lower the risk, the better the rates that you get as a consumer. So a lot of people will ask me when I am counseling, what is the secret recipe to a credit score? They'll say, well, what do I do? How do I change it? What control do I have? If you'll notice, payment history and utilization account for nearly 2/3 of your score. So I always tell people, if you're able to keep low balances and make your payments in full and on time, you'll be in great shape. The other thing that you've got pretty good control over too is how often you apply for credit. Granted, that's about 10% of your score. However, that's something that's super easy to control, is just being intentional and mindful of when you apply for credit and do I really need this credit? You'll also see that there's a little bit of 10% as well for the mixture of credit. So for example, do you have a mortgage and 2 credit cards? Do you have a student loan, a car payment, and a credit card? So different mixture of credit. So a secured loan with some unsecured credit card debt. It's a good mixture of the debt to show that I can pay different things in full and on time every single month. I know how to manage a credit card. I know how to manage a mortgage payment, for example. I know how to manage an auto loan. And then the other one that really just takes time to build up is the 15%, which is the length of your credit history. So really the best thing that you can do is just continue to pay in full and on time and don't apply for credit unless you absolutely need it. There are other credit scores that are out there. So sometimes some of those fancy websites, like for example, the Credit Karma that we mentioned, some of those online tools that we recommend that you use for educational purposes only, they might use different credit scoring models. Vantage is one of the most common ones, and Vantage is a joint venture of the 3 major credit bureaus. So it's basically a competitor of FICO. So you'll see that they also have a very similar formula to that FICO score of make sure that you keep your credit card balances low, pay things in full and on time, and only apply for credit if you need it. So pretty much kind of the same credit game. You can see that the formulas are just a smidgen different, but just make sure you're paying those things in full and on time and keeping your balances low on your credit cards, and you'll be in good shape. So for building your credit, what if you don't have any credit right now? What if you don't have something that you have to, pay in full and on time? I always tell people that secured credit cards are a great way to start building up your credit, and it's quite a safe way to do it as well. I typically tell people go to your nonprofit financial institution, your credit union, for some of these credit builder products. They've got some great options. But really, a secured credit card is where you make a deposit and you receive a card with a limit equal to the deposit amount. So if, for example, I was looking to get a $500 credit card, I could go to the financial institution, for example, put up $500 of my cold hard cash as collateral, get a card, and then I will take that card and I won't charge $500 on it right away. What I want to do is I want to start building up a positive history. So how I'm going to use that is I'm going to spend it on something that's maybe $25 every single month and pay it off at the end of the month in full and on time. So just $25, pay it off in full and on time to start really playing that credit game and make sure that I am keeping my balances low, right? And making that payment in full and on time every month. So other tips for using the secured cards wisely are to absolutely have money in savings as a backup. So if you do go to your financial institution, for example, with that $500 in cold hard cash, my recommendation is always have $500 in savings as well if you can. The second is to consider only making one charge a month, as I mentioned, maybe $25, and make this charge an automatic bill. So it could be, I had somebody a long time ago using it to pay for their newspaper subscription online, or you could do an internet bill or maybe Netflix or something like that, or a cell phone. The third step, or the third tip rather, is to use less than 1/3 of your available credit. So usually I tell people try not to use more than 25% of that $500. You really want to keep that low. So you don't want to be charging $300 or $400 on it every month. Keep it 25% or below. And then, of course, as we keep saying over and over again, can't stress it enough, pay off the entire balance in full and on time at the end of the month. That will help the credit, but you'll also avoid finance charges too. All right, so this slide is all about building or repairing credit. In my line of work, we get lots of questions about repairing credit and establishing better credit. So we mentioned the secured credit card. There are other options. Of course, there might be some credit builder loans through your financial institution or other types of secured loans. A store or retail credit card, that's okay too. It's a little bit riskier because typically with those retail cards, they do have higher interest rates. And then also, they are just a lot of times only for that retailer, for that store. So I always tell people if you can get something like the secured credit card that's universal, it's a little bit better. But certainly a store or retail credit card could potentially help to establish and build some of that credit. A gas card. So we know that gasoline prices are crazy right now, but it's something that we have to buy every single month. And if you can squeeze that into your budget, of course, with the higher gas prices, use a gas card to pay off every single month in full and on time, and don't carry a balance over. And then, kind of the last option I always tell people about, it's not ideal, but it certainly is something that you could potentially look into, is obtaining a co-signer or being added on as an authorized user. Um, that's just something to be really careful with, especially for the other party that is involved. It's somebody that, you really have to have a good trust relationship with. And it's also somebody that is able to trust that you are going to use that credit wisely. I always tell people too, with repair, like credit repair, be really mindful of paying a company to repair your credit. uh, Credit is made up of the formula that we saw. We talked about disputing the information. You can do that on your own. You can look that information up on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website, or you can even call GreenPath for some extra information about how do I go about doing this? What would you recommend? But credit repair, I typically tell people you don't have to pay a company or pay a third party to do that for you. It's definitely something that you can do on your own, to build up a healthy credit. And then, of course, work on your own to repair any kind of credit disputes that are there. So there are some credit myths that are very common in our line of work. And we've got credit myth number one, which is closing a credit card will always hurt my credit score. I could ask Sharice, you're here with us. Do you think that that is true or false? Closing a credit card will always hurt my score.
So I mean, I want to say no, but I feel like for me, I always answer this question by, if you don't have a lot of stuff, you don't have a lot of credit. Let's say you close a credit card and you don't have anything else, your score will reflect that you had, right? But I believe if you have a bunch of other stuff and you close your credit card, it wouldn't your credit score.
That was a beautiful answer. Thank you for answering that on the spot, Sharice. So that's a beautiful answer. So I always tell people that closing a credit card will not always hurt your score. It absolutely depends on what your credit looks like when you make that decision to close a credit card. So I've closed credit cards before, especially with like retailers. I'm not going to shop at that store ever again. I might as well just close it out and be done with it. If you close out accounts, it really depends on how much debt you have, how many credit cards you have open. I know that typically we like to see at GreenPath, like especially when we're talking to people about buying a home or something, you want to try to keep those low. So maybe like 2 credit cards if you can. Certainly once you get into like the 5 to 8 credit card range, you look a little bit riskier because you've got so many different lines of credit open and available credit open. So this just goes along with too that really good advice of being intentional with what kind of credit you want. Be really intentional when you do apply for credit. So Sharice's answer was perfect on that one. So we've got a little example here, and this is Andrew. Andrew has 3 max out credit cards. He's paid off his first card and decides to close it. He doesn't want to be tempted to use it again, And then his other two cards are at their limit. They're maxed out. So they've got like a $500 credit line, let's say, and he's at $499. In Andrew's case, it does depend on where he's at, right? Closing his card is going to hurt his score because he's already maxed out on his other two cards and he closed out the one that was in really good standing. We would probably tell him at GreenPath, hey, let's work to pay down the balances on those two. Keep the other one open. If you're tempted to use it, let's go, old school kind of shopaholic and just put it in the freezer, right? Or hide the card somewhere. All right, so here's another example on the flip side. We've got Sasha. She's got 5 open accounts. All of her balances are either at 0 or near 0, and she decides to close one of the accounts. So Sasha, that name. Sorry if anybody's named Sasha. I had a dog named Tasha when I was younger. So I always want to say Tasha, not Sasha. Sasha is an example of where closing a card would not affect your score. She's already got, 4 other accounts that are available. And with those other 4 accounts, it still shows that she's in good standing, paid in full and on time. That is a good consumer. That is somebody who is using credit wisely. All right, so this is another fun kind of credit myth. Myth number 2 is my credit score is a 760, so I have excellent credit. So we know from the risk profile, if I've got a score of 760, I'm definitely going to look less risky to a potential lender, right? I'm going to look less risky to the financial institutions because it's a pretty high credit score. But the big picture, we always just stress that your credit score is only one piece of your financial pie. So it's only like one piece of financial wellness, your credit score. Your income and assets are not listed, like how much savings you have, how much income you have. It's possible that you've got a 760 credit score, but you've got 0 income. You've got a 760 credit score, you've got 0 emergency savings. You could have really poor credit on the flip side, but you could be wealthy. So we always tell people just be really mindful of the big picture because credit definitely isn't everything when it comes to your financial wellness. It also has to do with your savings, income, assets, and how you manage your money. All right, we've got another credit myth. Credit myth number 3 is checking my credit report will hurt my score. So we know from our presentation today that checking your credit report will not always hurt your score, right? So when we put it into action, if I review my own credit on annualcreditreport.com, that is for informational purposes only. I'm checking my credit, my information. It's a soft inquiry. It's not going to affect my score. So we tell people, review your credit, dispute the information that's inaccurate, and assess where you're at. We want you to do that quarterly, every 90 days if you can. Step number 2 is to set up a reoccurring payment to go on your credit card and just pay it off in full every month, because 30% of your score is how well you pay your bills in full and on time, right? Step number 3 is to use your tax refund or any kind of extra like stimulus check or gift money or anything extra that you get to pay down existing credit card debt to reduce that 30% that goes into the score for credit utilization. And then of course, step number 4 is to ask for a credit line increase or open a secured credit card to establish on-time payments. So there are really healthy ways to build and maintain your credit and continue to establish healthy credit. And of course, consistency is key. Can't stress it enough. I know that I sound like a broken record. Pay your bills in full and on time every single month. Keep your credit card balances low and be intentional with the credit that you're applying for. So together, GreenPath and your credit union, we really can help you get to where you want to be on your financial wellness journey. There are lots of great products and services that the credit union offers. GreenPath offers a lot of financial wellness resources visit us online. There is a link to GreenPath on the Partner Colorado website. We've got my.greenpath.com that you can visit. And you can always give us a call as well for any type of kind of credit advice or credit questions. We can review your credit report with you over the phone as well. Our phone number to give us a call is 877-337-3399. And Cherise from Partner Colorado is here if you do have any questions on the credit union side. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tina, so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate the information. You guys always do such a great job. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for all that needed this information. I appreciate you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you, Cherise.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.